culture gone bad is back, and we haven't gotten any better. I promise you that.
Can I just say to all our listeners, if you are enjoying our content, or even if you aren't, it doesn't matter, just like our click the like button, because this gives us the motivation to go ahead. Yes, so
It gets me out of the bed in the morning, guys, when I see your likes. But you know what? I tell you something. Love and hate, we are one step away. So if you hate us, you should put like, because you never know. Maybe in a high side, you will realize this is how you actually felt. Sometimes these emotions are very difficult to distinguish. So trust me, hate and love, same thing. So leave a like.
Exactly. Leave a like if you love us, but even a bigger like if you hate us.
I was looking at a book about Linetia Dombe-Queen, if I pronounce it correctly.
You mean Linetia Domboyaki, the British? Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
She is my new discovery of this year. There was an exhibition at Tate, which I did not manage to go, but then I researched her work, and she is just fantastic. Yes.
I've seen both of her exhibitions at Tate, actually. The one before pandemic and the one after, because they extended it. The first one, I think, I'm pretty sure it was at Tate Modern, and the second one was Tate Britain.
Tate Britain, yes.
And, you know, when you see her paintings for the first time, you think this looks very familiar. Yeah. And she clearly painted this because it was her friend, or maybe she saw someone. You, for some reason, when you just see it without any context, assume that it's a real scene. And every person you show this, we think, oh, yeah, surely, like this looks so familiar, so real.
Intimate, yeah.
Yeah. And when you start reading about your practice, what you find out, it's actually all a fantasy with the imaginary situations. These people never existed, we never dressed this way, we never found themselves in this place. And I think it goes really well with what you mentioned about modern version of postmodernity.
Yeah, the late version of postmodernity, as I like to think about it. Yes, so postmodernity, generally speaking, is based on the concept of the simulacrum. The simulacrum is not the copy of something, you know. The copy of something is, I've got a book, and I photocopied the book, and I've got a copy, and then I also have possessed an original. But the simulacrum is different, because the simulacrum is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy without an original. And that's exactly what Linetia Domboyaki does in a certain sense. In one specific sense, this is a simulacrum, because it's the reproduction of a reality that never was, that never existed, because she creates her characters as if they were literary characters. She takes bits and pieces from different people, and she pieces them together to create those characters. At the same time, notwithstanding the fact that those are absolutely simulacral in nature, but they are the most real thing that you can find, precisely because they don't come from a real person. Because if they came from a real person, it would be that person. But because they are not, because they're abstractions, they become prototypical. Everybody can see truth in them because they are nobody. Okay.
Just like fashion editorials on Netflix, right? Well, I mean, our all entertainment consumption culture, advertising, it's always creating some fictional storyline with which we can identify, and we can imagine ourselves like living these lives, how we would act, how we would react. But none of this is ever truth, and we replicate it in circles again and again. And it's even satisfying, because I feel like it gives us an opportunity to develop behavioral patterns and be very sure of them and confident, and somehow suppose what this is the right way to do. And actually, we are all imaginary because someone else created them in absolutely fake environment, which is quite incredible.
Yeah, I think that the funny thing though is that Linetia Domboyake is late postmodernity, but at the same time she exits postmodernity, because remember, great artists and great minds, they always have one foot within their time, inside their time, and one foot outside. So Linetia Domboyake has some elements of our own time, our late postmodernity, but also some elements that overcome, overwhelm, and overflow our own time. For instance, today, all artists that are celebrated are usually speak about things like, I don't know, lived experience. Okay, think about the transgender artist Cassils. Cassils creates these art pieces, and they speak about transgender rights, and they speak about oppression, and they speak about this, and they speak about that, and there's nothing else. They are marketing operations to me, because you cannot find any meaning that is not mathematically put in there by the artists themselves. Whereas in Linetia Domboyake, there is a lot of space for thoughts to wander. So in her case, it's not about lived experience. It's about unlived experience, an experience that, because it doesn't belong to anyone specific, belongs to everyone. So I think in this sense, she is inside postmodernity, and simultaneously she is outside. She goes contrary to what everyone else is doing. And I think that for me, she's one of the most interesting, I don't know the greatest, but one of the most interesting painters of our times.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think, definitely she reflects everything. When I saw her at Tate Britain, something which I thought, I can easily imagine next Bottega Veneta campaign shot exactly in the same style, the way her paintings look. And I think it just shows how transferable her narrative is to any situation we can imagine.
Yeah, I think also you picked the right brand, because Bottega Veneta had that project, if you remember, that they paid great artists to create their campaigns, and they did it with Nan Goldin, amongst the others. However, I feel that whenever they found artists, like very intimate artists like Nan Goldin, or that's the reason why it's so fitting what you say. At the same time, I think those campaigns were not really successful. And the reason is that the moment in which you put a product to sell in such a beautiful, intimate artwork, it somehow makes you realize how superficial fashion is, because you're like somehow getting it dirty with something that is not meant to sell you a product, really, but to construct an idea. So the brand would definitely consider it. I think your intuition from a marketing point of view is very good. I think it would damage Linetia Domboyake though.
Well, I mean, you cannot get dirty without having some consequences.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
speaking of that, I was recently listening to another podcast about one of my favorite movies ever, which I don't know if it's going to be a surprise for you or for anyone else, but one of my top movies is films is Showgirls.
Oh, mine too. By Paul Verhoeven. It's funny because it was considered one of the ugliest movies of that decade, but I think it's absolutely a masterpiece.
Yeah, I think, it highlights big social dilemmas.
Yeah.
It also has an element of a show, which I really have a very soft spot for. When I think about, let's say, old Hollywood, think about How to Marry a Millionaire or Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe. It's a bit of a performance. It's all very theatrical. And I think I really crave it in film industry. I didn't know how to explain it, but I think I want more reality from TV series. And when I watch a film, I really want to have this over-the-top experience somehow. And for me, Showgirls delivers it. It's like it has this almost like old Hollywood extravaganza of performance, dance, music, and at the same time, the costumes are excellent, the makeup is over the top, the dialogues are trashy. This is what I think gives me a pleasure of cinema, at least.
Yes, I totally agree. And actually, we were talking about postmodernity. Now, a movie like that would not be possible, would be because that movie was also light. It was deep, malgré lui. It did not have any pretense of depth. Okay, it was only fun. Postmodern cinema.
That's what I love.
Yeah, me too.
Please,
me too.
Please, I want us to go back to being
Exactly.
shallow, dumb. I don't want any pretense. So that's what I like.
I
love
was
dumbness.
getting there.
Dumbness. Yes.
I was getting there. We lost that. The passage between the 1980s, 1990s postmodernity to today's postmodernity is that at the time, everything was about unabashed shallowness and about fun and stimulation of senses, not stimulation of concepts as it was modern cinema. Antonioni, right? But today we lost both, and we are looking for reality, but we are not obtaining reality because TV series recount a reality that does not exist, and we pretend it does. It just fulfills the dream of, I don't know, of wealthy East Coast Americans, and I'm watching And Just Like That, and it's terrible. I'm thinking about quitting it because it's disgusting. It has lost the glitter of the reason why we fell in love with it. So I think the Showgirls is the epitome of that postmodern cinema of the 1990s that I like, precisely because it's a fiction, and it's in Las Vegas, which is the city of fiction, and it's all about success and we totally lost that, and sexiness, and sex used to obtain money and money used to obtain sex. It's fantastic.
It's also very brazen. No one is being ashamed in that movie.
Exactly, yes. And it's not heavy. It's not heavy. We got to a point where we lost the fun. We've got heavy things. Nobody wants to watch them, but we are trapped because everybody is scared of exiting the circle, of this circle, and going back to something that is fun. I don't know why, because somebody would get offended, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to go back to dumb circle.
Yeah, which is always dumbness that is never really dumb, because I don't know, one of my all-time favorites, next to obviously Showgirl, and I like Paul Verhoeven in general. I liked RoboCop. I liked what's the name with Sharon Stone? Basic Instinct.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, it's a fantastic movie. I want that glamour, those sparkles, and also another movie that I think is a masterpiece of that era, and I'm not using the word masterpiece in an ironic way. I truly think it is Death Becomes Her. I don't know if we talked about
my God, yes. Oh my God, Death Becomes Her. Another my top movie. Everything about it is just so bizarre, and I just like how they're chasing things they can never attain. They fail, but even in the last sequence, like on the stairs, they're still going in their like collapsed body parts to fetch this aerosol to fix their makeup. And they don't even care. They're in the church, they ruins the whole fucking wedding. Love it.
Not the funeral. The funeral.
Oh, yeah.
It's a funeral, which makes it even funnier.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they have it all in that
but
film.
You know, I find now that I'm speaking with you, I do believe that there are two moments of postmodernity, and the moment in which postmodernity started to change, to me, this is a theory that I've been thinking about for a while, is the Twin Towers. And that is because the 1980s and 1990s and 1970s even have been an increasing dream. And then in 9/11, 2001, something happens. Twin Towers get attacked, and we in the West are not allowed to dream anymore. We have our Western cities become, except Italy, which was never touched by terrorism, but other Western cities were touched by terrorism. You could not dream anymore. You had to, there was a danger next to you. You could not be in this world of dreams. You know, the danger was not in some faraway country in the Middle East. Danger was at home. And that's the moment in which people have started putting their feet back on the floor and become concerned with certain things. So I think 2001, it's the beginning of the end of that glamorous and, you know, postmodernity. Obviously, it's just the beginning of the end, because it carried on until 2008, which inflicted another blow, and then COVID inflicted another blow, and it has been a slow descent. However, there is one movie that was made in 2000, I think, which is Mulholland Drive by David Lynch. Now, Mulholland Drive, do you remember the plot?
Of course, I know it probably by heart.
Same. So Mulholland Drive is a movie that has been read in this way. This is the most accredited, or the one I believe is the most interesting view of that movie. The movie proceeds. There is the blonde girl who meets the brunette, and they fall in love. They're escaping a danger, but they are together. They love each other. A love begins between the two women, and that's a dream, right? And then they go to the Club Silencio.
But erotic scenes as
and
well.
Erotic scenes, everything. They go to the Club Silencio. They go back home, and at some point there is a blue box, like this blue, blue box.
If Clan Blue.
And at some point, there is a very quick traveling shot of the camera inside the blue box. And that's the moment in which the movie changes. The blue box is a dimensional door that brings you to a different movie. If the first part of the movie was a dream, where they loved each other, they were satisfied, they fought against the world together, the second part of the movie is a nightmare. The same character, the blonde girl, she's depressed. There are signs of psychosis. Her life becomes a nightmare. Okay. And if you compare the first part of the movie with the second part, you see that the second part is like a bad dream, whereas the first part was a beautiful dream. The same elements organized differently in a daunting way in the second part. So I think this is pretty much what happened to postmodernity between the 90s and the 2000s. You know, there was a dream, and then 2001 and 2008 and COVID were like this kind of dimensional door, and then the nightmare began. So I think as a metaphor, it works.
What's your understanding in Mulholland Drive? So do you think it's all was a dream, like she was asleep and she dreamt it? Or do you think it
so there are three readings that have been proposed of the movie. One is the two parallel universes. Okay, almost like the string theory. There are two universes in which the same character has, you know, two different lives. The second one is a dream and the other one is a nightmare. And the third one, the first part of the movie is the dream, and the second part of the movie is the truth. Because after the camera gets into the blue box, the next scene is her, the blonde girl, waking up in the morning. So that can be the sign that the first part was an entire dream. So she's waking up to a dream to find that her material reality is actually terrible. So I have when I studied cinemas, you know, and when I was at university, I analyzed that movie and read every possible thing I could find about it. So yeah.
You like Mulholland Drive. Mulholland Drive is very aesthetic movie. It has this glamour, which I also mentioned earlier. You know, it does have, but I mean, again, David Lynch, he has this very 50s influence in his style.
I mean, all postmodern cinema does that. And in Mulholland Drive, also in other movies by Lynch, but in Mulholland Drive, you see it in a literal way. When the brunette is in front of the mirror, do you remember? She does not know who she is. She does not remember her name. So in a beautiful scene with mirrors, she sees a poster, and there is Rita Hayworth in the poster, and she chooses Rita as a name. So there is a reference to Rita Hayworth. And then at some point, when she goes for the audition, she goes inside the door that is the Paramount Productions. And that is the same, literally the same scene that we see in Sunset Boulevard with Gloria Swanson by Billy Wilder. So there is a lot of literal reference to Hollywood. And then she in the audition, there is that song, Every Little Star, which is a very famous old American song. So there is a lot of direct, that's what postmodern cinema does all the time. Direct references to the past. The same happens, by the way, also in Death Becomes Her. You do remember the party with all the Hollywood stars that never died?
Oh, who never died, but always kept everyone guessing what was their age. Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, some great movies. I sometimes feel very nostalgic. You know, I try not to go into this nostalgia because I think it's very unproductive. But I don't know, maybe it's our age, but I sometimes feel like when I watch these movies, I feel truly entertained and I feel at ease. And it's a huge satisfaction.
I think their point was to entertain us, you know, was not to make us morally better.
Feel miserable.
It was to entertain us. Especially there is this idea that classical Hollywood cinema has never produced an ugly movie because ugliness simply could not happen, because productions were so controlling over the scripts and directors and everything that ugliness was not allowed to be produced, essentially, at the time, which is the reason why all Hollywood movies look pretty much like each other. That's how the film genre was born, because the genre is precisely a movie that looks like another movie that looks like another movie. So you've got these predictable patterns in
But this
Hollywood.
is like the whole criticism of Adorno, right? His theory, essentially what works, you know, when Adorno went to California and he understood what in American consumer culture, the most successful approach is to reproduce characters, storylines, ideas, which already satisfied us, just under new sauce or under new angle. But you know, I think we all can identify with that. Things we enjoy the most in different people experiences, places, shopping, we are similar, we're just a little bit different. But the things which we in then choose, we're often very much the same, because essentially they respond to our patterns. It's like algorithms, you know, where's a perfect example of technological application. You know, you search something online, next thing you know, you see the same things again and again. And if you leave like or comment or share something, it will pick it up and it will realize what it can feed you with things again and again. What a vortex we live in with technology.
I think what you say is, yeah, indeed, very, very fascinating. I didn't remember this idea by Adorno, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his criticism, like aesthetical criticism, is what, you know, it's replication of what we already enjoy. Why challenge and give us a new idea, a new pattern, if we can just, you know, essentially make money from what is already successful?
Yeah, and I think this is also becoming, this was good in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, etc. But this is becoming a little bit of a problem, because now nostalgia is becoming a little bit jaded. It's becoming a trap. We are not seeing any way out. We think that everything has been created, so nothing can be created anymore because everything has been done. And this is just a trap. It's not true that everything has been done, but we think it has, and therefore we're unable to progress.
I think, I'd like to believe what we should reward people, or we should have people in different roles, in positions in a society, not because of their identity, but because of their merit, what they are capable of, what is their experience, and what they can prove.
Yes, I think as you mentioned, merit is very important, but we live in a society that has, where merit is perceived to be a questionable value, and also is perceived to be something that belongs to the right. I don't see how merit should be something that belongs to a political party, to be honest. This is it's very
Are
stupid.
you very political, Juppe? Like, do you follow politics?
I do follow politics. Yes. I do follow politics. I'm not political particularly. I mean, I am in my own way, but I do follow politics, yes. And this has become a political issue, which is a shame. And we are mentioning this because in America, the Supreme Court has deemed the affirmative action unconstitutional. So what was happening in America is, I'm not an expert in affirmative action, so I don't want to give out too many information, because I think I would probably give some wrong information. But what I know is that American top universities were selecting people not based on their merits, but based on their race. In other words, they wanted to bring the body of people they had close to the amount of, the people of certain races in society. And one may even say that this is good because certain demographics, specifically Black people in America, have historically suffered more. I wonder, though, whether it's a good idea to let them enter university even if they don't meet when they don't meet the criteria. Obviously, the major flaw, I think, of this system is that it assumes that Black people are not good enough to get in the university without some help, and this is already something contradictory. Okay, now the real reason why this mess began is not because white people have complained, and this is something that people don't want to mention too much, but it's because Asian people complained. Now, Asian people, if you look at the percentage of Asian people in American top universities, are overrepresented, meaning that there is a lot of Asian people, for the simple fact that they are extremely good. They passed the test. And at some point, a group of Asian students noticed that they were not entering top universities, even if they knew that they were good enough, because they had tried the tests before. And they realized that the university was giving more points to people of certain race and less points to people of other races. This is essentially racism. Because they wanted a more diverse body of students. The problem is then that, unfortunately, from what I saw, most of these people who got into university because they were helped by, because they were given points because of things that were not their merit, did not graduate at the top of their class, because they were simply not, performing as well as the Asian students, whereas the Asian students were consistently very good. Now, this to me seems like racism against Asians, because you are judging them because of their race. You're not judging them because of their merit. Now, merit is something very democratic. If you allow people to be judged on merit, diversity will naturally emerge, because I do believe that merit is equally spread in all racial groups. But if you give more points to people of certain race, it means that deep down you don't believe that merit is equally spread. Otherwise, you wouldn't give more points to certain groups. Now, the uncomfortable truth, I think, to be said is that if instead of giving more points to people of certain races, universities invested more money in primary schools and secondary schools to better train those students would not need any help to get into university. So they are doing the shortcut. Okay, they're allowing them in regardless of merit many times, and this goes at the expenses of other social groups like some Asian students. So I think that is a very, very difficult problem. Generally speaking, I think that merit should always be the criteria in top universities. And if you want to get everybody to the same level of merit, then you need to work with primary schools and secondary schools. You have to work in terms of opportunity, not in terms of outcomes. You cannot expect outcomes if you don't give opportunities, and opportunities need to be given early in life. The problem is that the effort is precisely what people are not working on, because effort is usually in certain cultures encouraged by families. And for instance, notoriously, Asian students are encouraged by their family since they're children. So you need to start very early. That's why I'm saying that, because hard work needs to be inculcated early on to students, to pupils. So, we are always going back to that idea of, starting from early childhood and demanding all pupils of all possible backgrounds to demanding a lot from them, not shortcuts. They never help.
True.
They never help.
Shortcuts in life. I'll take it further. I think shortcuts in life, they do not benefit in any case. It can feel nice in a moment if you get a shortcut, I don't know, for anything. It's like, what we say, I think I always find it very interesting. People who win lottery, right? Apparently, most of them do not manage to keep up the money they acquired because they do not have any financial literacy and we never had experience of handling money. So, this is the same with everything. Shortcut sounds very appealing. But if you do not have the knowledge or capacity, you will not be able to actually fulfill any duties. And I think it applies to everything in life. I think marriage should be our criteria, but I tell you what, culture gone bad is bad across all areas. So our merit is pretty even.
Yeah, also, it surprises me that we are obsessed by this idea of representation. I'm not talking just about race now. I'm talking also about, sexual orientation, gender, sex, etc. But only at the top level. Nobody worries about the fact that women are underrepresented amongst builders. So it only goes in one direction. So it's not true that you want the world. This is a power game. It's not true that you really want everybody to be represented everywhere. It's just a power game. It's just, but then, if you want power, you need to work for it. You cannot follow, the shortcut of helps and quotas, whatever group you are, starting from mine, the homosexuals.
I'm very satisfied with being the only woman in waiting area. I can watch all the sexy men. I'm very satisfied with that.
Where are you? Sorry?
In a gym.
Oh, in a gym, sorry. No, I thought you became a builder overnight and you didn't tell me.
Yeah, I had a bit of a career change. No, I'm very satisfied being the only woman in lifting area in a gym. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Yes.
I find it very satisfying. I don't need any more women there.
Yeah.
I think underrepresentation in a gym feels good.
I think, I don't know, I think this idea of representation, as generally speaking, it's important, don't get me wrong, it's very important, but we tend to give it too much, as if representation had a magical quality of, until you saw somebody that looks like you or loves like you or has the same genitalia that you have, until you see that, you cannot dream of that career.
Come on, to have the same genitalia.
I mean,
it's always going to be some fine difference.
Similar. I think it's an important thing, representation, don't get me wrong, but it shouldn't be considered this transubstantiating element, the one that can turn you into anything. If you didn't become that, is because you did not have somebody that looked like you.
No, I mean, let's be very honest. Everyone should be given an opportunity, right?
Of course.
Like, you can go try to be a bodybuilder. You can try to get spot at Cambridge. You can go and try to become a president. You can go start a podcast, like everyone, every single person. But hopefully the best one will become, because this is a proof of your merit. And this is also a proof of equal opportunity. But the level of effort, the level of capacity is always going to be different, because how good you are should get you to the top.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point, that we are conflating opportunity with outcome. Obviously, we need to actually strengthen the opportunities that we give to people. That's absolutely the point. The problem is that we are thinking in terms of outcomes, and unfortunately, when you get to a top university, this is already an outcome. It's not an opportunity you're being given. The opportunities come before. So we have to give equal opportunities to everyone. What we cannot expect as a society is that everyone performs in the same way, given the same opportunity.
We cannot expect equal outcomes.
Exactly. You cannot expect equal outcomes. You simply can't.
Well, the only outcome I'm expecting is likes, comments, and guys, follow us. We are on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts and other major podcasting platforms. Please share the love. And if you feel bored on your weekend or on your commute journey, why don't you make us your background?
Oh yes, I would love. I mean, are we that relaxing? Talking about this
I mean,
depression.
we for sure can put some people to sleep.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I don't imagine somebody doing their chores at home and listening to our podcast. But if you do, please let us know
Yeah,
somehow.
we would love to be the background of your life. All right. Well, on this note, till next time, culture gone bad says goodbye.